Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing my January book haul. So it might seem like it's a little bit early to be doing a book haul for this month because we're only halfway through the month, but I already have so many exciting titles to share with you guys. I have some that I bought myself, but some that were also sent to me by publishers, and I just have some great 2021 releases to share with you. And I wanted to do this early because I knew that there are some books that are coming out in the latter half of January that I will just include in my February book haul, so then I can talk a little bit more in depth about them. Speaking of buying books, today's video is appropriately sponsored by ShopTiger, which is a super handy and very, very useful app or Google Chrome extension that will notify you when the items that you want to buy go on sale or they come back in stock if they're out of stock. It honestly, for someone who loves shopping and especially online shopping like me, it has been a lifesaver. I actually ended up snagging a pretty good deal on War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi, which I will talk about a little bit more when I get into the actual haul, but I was able to get this for a decent percentage off because I do all of my book shopping online right now. I do pre-ordering a lot as well, but I mostly shop through Chapters Indigo, and you can see that their prices will fluctuate quite a bit. So the book will be regular price and then it will be a higher percentage off and then lower percentage off. So this app just took it made it so I didn't have to constantly be checking and refreshing, and was able to get this book for, I think it was 10% off or something like that, which is really great because I also have a membership with Indigo where I get an extra 10% off. So I love a good deal, you know? I buy a lot of books, so finding the best deal is great, and something that takes the thought out of that is definitely a lifesaver for me. So all you have to do to use this is download the Google Chrome extension and then go to your favorite stores, and then you just click a button on whatever item you want it to watch, and that's pretty much it. You can get notifications via email or mobile push notifications when the item comes back in stock, if it's out of stock, or there's a price drop, or there's a relevant coupon code that you can use. So it really is something that is going to help you save a lot of money. If you're like me, you also have a lot of interests. So I have multiple things that I like to shop for. I like to shop for clothes, I like to shop for activewear, I like to shop for books, makeup, all of those things. So it's super handy because you can organize everything into wish lists, which is so helpful because I know I would just get very, very overwhelmed by everything being in one spot. So having that ability to organize things is so great. If you're using ShopTiger on your computer, the extension is totally a must because it will actually scan the web for a coupon code for you to use at checkout, and that has helped me save even more money so many times because there are so many coupon codes out there. A lot aren't actually on the website, but ShopTiger looks for them for you, and just you don't have to do any work. I love not having to do the work. They also have recently launched a cashback feature, so you are able to get some cash back via PayPal with partnered retailers. So that's super cool too. We love to save money. We love to earn a little money from shopping as well. It's definitely a must, so you can make sure you don't miss any of those post-holiday sales. So I will have a link for you guys to check out ShopTiger down below. I definitely recommend it. It's also a way to make sure that you're not impulse buying things, I think. In my opinion, at least, it keeps me from buying things right away because I'm I'll keep an eye on it. I can wait and see if it ends up going on sale. So I'm not just buying things to buy things, which is really nice. And to save the most money, don't forget to download ShopTiger on your phone as well as your computer. That's definitely going to be the best way to use it. So now getting into the book haul. So I'll start off with the book that I already showed you guys, which is War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi. I had my eye on this book, but I was kind of waiting because I had already recently purchased quite a few books. So I was okay, we'll see. And then, like I said, I ended up finally doing it, and I'm really glad that I have a copy now. So this is an Afrofuturist novel, which I don't think I've really read many of, and partially because I'm not super into fantasy at the moment, but this one definitely caught my attention. This is set in the year 2172, and the earth is mostly uninhabitable, and it is actually set in Nigeria, and it's completely war-torn. There's the civil war that has been going on for ages, and it follows two two sisters who are pretty much willing to do anything that they possibly can to get out of this life that they're living in this war-torn country where it's so hard for people to survive. This definitely has a sci-fi element to it as well, because as the Earth is mostly uninhabitable, like technology is coming into it a lot. The battles are filled with technology. The soldiers are fitted with technological like armor and things like that. So definitely a very interesting concept. I haven't really read many futuristic novels in general, but I can't even think of the last one that I have read, which, like I said, is probably because I'm not really into sci-fi, I guess would be a more apt term for this at the moment. But I definitely am really looking forward to this one. I've heard some amazing things. I do have another book by this author as well. I have Beast Made of Night, so that one I believe is more of a fantasy, but maybe I will start with that one or start with this one. I don't know. Either way, I'm really looking forward to both of them. I'm just going to start off with the books that I actually bought for myself. So the next book is Fake It Till You Break It by Jenn P. Nguyen. This is a contemporary YA story, definitely a romance, and it deals with fake dating, which is one of my favorite tropes. I do tend to very much enjoy it, but in this instance, it's these mothers who have wanted their children to be together for as long as they can remember. They've known each other forever, and they know that it's not going to happen. They don't get along at all. So the main character, her mother keeps on trying to set her up with all of these different guys, and to finally get them off of their backs, they decide to fake date. But then obviously, you know, they kind of realize maybe they don't hate each other as much as they initially thought, which is just, there's something about that plot line that always gets me, and I really love it. So I don't think this one will be any exception. Next is actually a book that I talked about in my wish list video that I did for Bookmas, but this is the only one that I actually ended up picking up so far, at least, but that is The House on the Cerulean Sea in the Cerulean Sea. I think I've been saying on this entire time, but by TJ Klune. So I ended up picking up this one because the paperback copy came out, and I was like, okay, I feel like I can justify giving it a shot now. It is an adult fantasy, and it's one that, like, the synopsis kind of confuses me like a lot, but I've heard amazing things about it from multiple people. Like, I've heard so many people raving about it, a lot of people talking about it last year, and I've heard that it's a very literary fantasy, kind of like a love letter to literature in general, so that seems really interesting. It's about a main character who is given this special job where he is tasked with taking care of these orphans, and it's like, I thought it said on Goodreads something about like sprites and stuff and different magical creatures, so I'm not really sure exactly what to expect from it, but I definitely know that it has been like really on my radar recently, and who knows, maybe I'll pick it up in the next month. So those are all the books that I bought myself. Now the next few books are ones that were sent to me by publishers. So first, from Hachette Canada, I got these next two books, so thank you very much to them for sending them to me. So first is Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson. This follows the main character Nala, who goes to a friend of hers open mic night, and she ends up just falling in love at first sight with the MC, but they are very different people. So she ends up telling a few white lies to make it seem like they have some more common interests and they can get to know each other. But obviously that's definitely just a recipe for disaster in the first place, as she starts to kind of like mix up what is actually a lie and what she's told him, and it just becomes very confusing. So definitely an interesting concept for a story. I feel like it's one, like, I really want to read this one, but I also tend to hate, not that I hate it, but when I'm reading it, you know, it's one of those books where when you're reading it, you hate it because you know things are going to go badly. You know what's going to go wrong, but you can't do anything to stop it, and it's so frustrating. I think that's more so what I'm trying to say. It's a very frustrating experience of reading it, so that's definitely what I'm expecting here, but usually the payoff makes up for that frustration. Like, it's never made me not like a book, generally at least. I can't think of any instances, so this one does still sound really good, and I don't know, we'll see. It's gonna be a mess, but I'm still looking forward to it. And next up is Bedazzled by Rhiannon. So this, I actually have another book by this author, and I don't know, I think it's at my parents' house still, but it's Reverie, and this is their second book. So in here we follow a main character who loves fashion, loves bedazzling, loves just everything about fashion in general, and he wants to compete in this giant cosplay competition because he could finally get the chance to get his foot in the door, get to art school school, get a sponsorship, like everything could start, it could get the ball rolling basically. But he ends up realizing that he's going to be competing against his ex-boyfriend. And then what's worse is it ends up that they're not going to be competing against each other, but they're actually going to have to work together. I haven't really read a book that centers on fashion, but I think that sounds like a really interesting concept, and I've heard some amazing things about this author's other work, so super excited to learn more about this fashion world. I don't know, it just seems intriguing to me. Next is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. So this was sent to me by HarperCollins. I wasn't expecting it at all, so thank you to them for sending it to me, but this is by the author of The Hating Game, which I did really enjoy. That's like one of the most popular hate to love romances, like more recent ones, I would say, at least like since I've really started reading adult romances. And she also is the author of 99% Mine, which I ended up DNFing. I wasn't a fan of that one, but I had pre-ordered this one actually because I do think it's something that I might have a little bit of better luck. So this is actually a rom-com that is set in a retirement community, which is intriguing. Like, just reading the synopsis kind of makes me think of Grace and Frankie, the Netflix show, which I do really love. So this is about a tattooed, muscular dude who he ends up being assistant to these two elderly residents at a retirement community, and he is assisting them under the watchful eye of the young, you know, basically the love interest who is the manager of the retirement community. So I have a lot of questions about this cover, to be honest. Like, I don't know why there's turtles and I can't figure it out, so I would really like to know why there's turtles. That's really the only thing I don't understand about the cover, but it is blurred by Christina Lauren and I love them, so I trust them, and I think that this one might be a success. Like, I think 99% Mine wasn't for me, but I have hopes for this one. And these last few books were all sent to me by Simon & Schuster. They send like the biggest box every month, and it's so lovely because I never remember what I'm getting, so it's like Christmas, and this time it actually was near Christmas. But the first book that I have here is The Meet Cute Project by Rhiannon Richardson. So this is a rom-com about a girl who is basically willing to do whatever it takes to get a date to her sister's wedding. She's pretty desperate at this point, but she's not really into like the whole romantic scene. She doesn't love rom-coms basically, and her friends really love them. So they decide that they have the perfect plan and they are going to set her up with a meet cute. That's what she needs. She needs a meet cute. So I don't know how you really set up a meet cute because I feel like the spontaneity is kind of part of it, but I do think the concept of trying to set up a meet cute and trying to force that does sound like it could be ridiculous and amazing, and like the setup for honestly a really adorable romance. I totally didn't tell you release dates for the books that I've talked about, so I will go through that now, but this one is coming out January 12th, so it will be out by the time you see this video. Second First Impressions is coming out in April of 2021, so still a little bit of a wait for that one. Dazzled is coming out the 5th, so that one is actually out now when I'm filming this video. And Love is a Revolution is coming out February 2nd. Next up is In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. This is super intriguing to me. So before I forget, when is this coming out so that I can let you guys know? So this is coming out April 20th. This sounds so intriguing to me. Like, I hadn't really heard of it before, but when I went on Goodreads to mark it, I was like, oh my goodness, because it is described as a swoony high seas adventure, perfect for fans of Pirates of the Caribbean and The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. That combination just sounds chef's kiss, like absolutely amazing. So this one is coming out on April 20th, so there is still a little ways to go, but I feel like it's going to be worth the wait. In here you follow a young prince who is on his grand tour, and he ends up getting kidnapped and then having to rely on a complete stranger to take care of him. So I've always been like, the coming of age tour does really intrigue me. Like, that was like my favorite aspect of Gentleman's Guide, and I mean, besides the romance, which is adorable, but I think we're going to get more of that here. Like, it really looks like it. This cover is beautiful. We've got pirates, like the combination. Oh, I can't wait to read this one. I'm so glad that it was sent to me because it just sounds so great. Next is A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. I'm extra excited for this one because it is actually set in Canada. It is set in Toronto, but it's set in like an urban underground fantastical world of Toronto, which just sounds so cool. It also has a queer cast of characters, which is awesome, and the author has has actually made a whole list on the Goodreads page for this of characters and their representation, which is super helpful and such a nice touch. There's also trigger warnings there if that's something that you need to be wary of, but this is actually about a serial killer, so that was unexpected. But it is a race to stop the serial killer because these crimes could lead to the underground world of Fae being actually exposed. So kind of like Cruel Prince vibes a little bit there. It's described kind of as a mix of Cruel Prince and City of Bones, which I see where they're going with that and am definitely intrigued to see what that really means. I almost forgot to tell you the release date again. I don't know why that's so difficult for me, but this one is coming out on March 2nd. This next book you actually may have seen in my January TBR because I talked about it there because I really want to read it, but that is A Pho Love Story by Lone Lee. So pho is like how the generally accepted way to pronounce it, but I was thinking, and someone else commented this, but because the common mispronunciation is faux, so like a faux love story, like a fake love story, but I don't know if that is the intention of the pun. I'm just gonna say pho because that is like the general accepted way that you should say it, but just something that's interesting to think about. It's kind of funny if it is a play on that common mispronunciation. But anyways, this is a romance that follows two characters who have this romance blossoming and they are dealing with newfound love, but they are also dealing with this really long family feud because their families are the owners of rival Vietnamese restaurants. So definitely just sounds so cool. I love the restaurant idea, the romance, the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing going on there, like forbidden love. It just sounds amazing. So this one is coming out on February 9th. Sorry, it takes me a second because Americans do month, day, year, but we do day, month, year. So it's always very confusing to me because I was like, it's coming out September 2nd. Like, why do I have this already? But anyways, the point is this sounds adorable and I'm super excited. Like, it sounds like a great Valentine's Day read. So if I don't end up getting to it this month, for sure next month. I always say that, but like, just don't hold me to it, but like, hopefully. Speaking of Romeo and Juliet, actually, next up is When You Were Mine by Rebecca Serle. So this is actually a reprint. This book originally came out in 2012, I believe it was, and this reprinted edition is out now. It came out in November, but this is by the author of In 5 Years, which came out last year, and everyone seemed to love it. And I was sent 2 copies, didn't know anything about it, and I ended up giving them away. And then my sister just read In 5 Years and she really loved it. So now I'm sad that I gave them away. So maybe I'll read this one and then see. Like, this one is YA and I'm pretty sure In 5 Years is adult, but anyways, this has a really intriguing concept because it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it focuses on Rosaline, who is the girl that Romeo was supposed to marry. So she is telling the story of Romeo and Juliet through her eyes as the rejected one, basically. So I don't think I've ever really read anything about Rosaline, and definitely like there's so much potential for story there. So really interested to see what this author does with it. Next up is Glimpsed by G.F. Miller. So this follows a character who has the ability, like, essentially she's a fairy godmother. So she's granting wishes for the students at the high school that she goes to. She gets these glimpses of the future and then she like grants wishes based on that. But with this book, she ends up making a mistake. She ends up like going with her gut with a glimpse and granting this wish, and it ends up messing up a whole thing. So then she starts to question pretty much every wish that she's ever granted before. This one is actually already out as well. So this one came out on the 5th of January, but it's definitely like interesting, very different concept for a story, and it kind of seems like a twist on the typical sort of like high school fairy tale story, and I like the idea of it. Next up is Bruised by Tanya Boteju. So this is actually by a Canadian author as well, and it is her second book. She has Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens, which I think is also at my parents' house actually, but this one is all about roller derby, which is super cool. I love that idea because roller derby is something that like I kind of like, I know very, very minimal about, but I've never really seen a book about it. And that sounds really interesting to me to learn more about that and kind of have like a different hobby explored in a YA novel. So definitely interested in that. And Bruised is coming out on March 23rd. Next is Your Heart, My Sky by Margarita Engle. So this is actually a series of poems. It is a novel in verse, which I didn't realize before just opening it now, but this one is coming out on March 23rd as well, and it is a story inspired by the author's own history, her family's struggles during a dark time in Cuba's history. So it's a time of famine, and it's about these two characters who are starving, they're searching for food, and they end up finding each other. So it's described as a story of love in a time of starvation and desperation for survival. And it has like such a beautiful cover. So I love the fact that it's inspired by the author's own history. I think that's really interesting and definitely something that I don't really know a lot about either. Next is Naughts and Crosses by Malorie Blackman. So this book has actually been out for a while now, but this is the edition that pairs with the adaptation that I believe is coming out. I don't know if it's actually already out. I didn't even know that NBC's streaming service was released. I didn't think it was out yet, but that just tells you how much I know about things. But it is coming out as a TV series, I believe, on Peacock. But basically, this is a story about forbidden love, kind of once again, because you have a knot and a cross, and they are not supposed to mix. They are not supposed to get along. If your knot or a cross determines your skin color, and it determines where you are in society and where you fall. But the two main characters are a knot and a cross, but they've known each other forever, and it's kind of a story about if their love can endure with no one wanting them together and it being pretty much like unheard of and not allowed for them to mix. I have been intrigued by this book in the past. I don't know why I haven't picked it up, but I'm glad that I have a copy now. And finally is Your Corner Dark by Desmond Hall. So this one is coming out on the 19th of January, so still a little bit to go, but it is about Jamaica and specifically the dangers of gang violence in Jamaica. Our main character, Frankie, got a scholarship, his ticket out of Jamaica, and he ends up having to give all of that up when his father is killed, and in order to pay the medical bills, he has to agree to a spot on his uncle's gang. So not what he was expecting at all. Definitely going to be a dark and difficult story to read, I think, but I think it's also going to be a really important one. So those are all the books for today's book haul. Thank you so much to the publishers for sending me all of these books. It is much appreciated. Any that I don't end up reading, I donate to my local high school because they don't have a library, so they do end up getting read and going to good homes. But I'm super excited about all of these. They sound really great. Now, also thank you to Shoptagr for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check them out in the link down below. It's definitely going to help you out. Like, there's nothing you really have to lose with trying it out. You really just have things to gain because it's going to save you money. Honestly, it's so helpful. But thank you once again to them, and thank you for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!